Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show and podcast. And my very special guest this morning is James Holley, the old guy in Europe. And it's going to be great to talk to him about, the big question really, was it worth moving to Europe? He's the old guy in Europe. He wants to travel Europe. Has it been worth it? I've talked to him, I think, hundreds of times. And of course, he has his own video channel. An old guy in Europe, and his videos, as the young people say, drop every Friday. So you'll be able to keep up with his adventures there. And we'll speak to him on a regular basis here at the Good Morning Portugal show as well. So let's give him a nice big round of applause because we're going to have a look at the bird of the month as well. That's been a fantastic and popular feature. Let's bring him onto the screen. The old guy in Europe.
James. Bom dia!
Olá, bom dia, tudo bem?
Muito bem, obrigado. E tu?
Complicado.
Cansado.
Complicado. There's a lot going on, a lot of changes here in Portugal, which I hope people will find useful, including our chats, our regular chats, James, the old guy in Europe. And the big question I want to ask you today is, has it been worth the move? I mean, I've not asked you that big and obvious question. We've chatted every week for the last 2 or 3 years, I think, and that's spawned your own channel. But I've not really asked the big question about moving to Europe. How has that been? What are your reflections on that big picture?
Well, the short story is I'm packing all my bags and leaving tomorrow.
That's a bombshell. That's a real bombshell. But thanks for letting us know first.
No. But JK, just kidding.
I've not heard that before. JK, just kidding.
Yeah. I've seen it a lot with my grandchildren, so it must be a very younger thing.
Yes.
So, it hasn't been worth it. Absolutely. I made that decision coming in 90% sure that it would be that way. And every day since has just been confirmation that it was a great decision. You know, politics aside, all the good reasons for being here are still good reasons. And we've talked about, the 8 stages of relationship and the infatuation stage. And you and I talked about that you had been here so many years and still weren't like over that. And as I wouldn't say it's infatuation, but it's like knowing you made the right choice with your partner. You know, like, this is the right one. Yeah, for sure. Every day I'm reminded.
You look across the table and go,
Good choice.
It feels like that with you in Portugal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, it's not, we've also talked about, some of the, I don't even want to say downsides, the more challenging parts, which primarily for me have been in, the paperwork, the bureaucracy, getting the requirements, the stacks of paperwork required to, change your address, and kind of thing. But it's what comes with the territory. And it doesn't, it's like the one thing I can complain about, right? The other infinite things are all great.
Yeah, you get your one thing. There you
go.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
And the choice to be here has been, it's worked out so perfectly for me. I came, I guess not really with the idea that I was retired, although technically I guess I was semi-retired because my client base had been reduced considerably by the time I made the move. For those who don't know, former psychotherapist in California. And 3 or 4 of my clients wanted to keep seeing me, and I was already seeing them online. So that was a fairly easy transition, although it does bring into question some of the licensing requirements and so on. I'm in Portugal, I'm licensed in California, which only allows me to see people in California, which is what I was doing, but I was in Portugal and in California. It never came up, so at some point I was down to 2 or 3 of those people, and I said, just to avoid all the licensing potential requirements, I just changed my shingle, took off the therapist and put up coach.
Yes.
Because coaching is not regulated as far as I know anywhere. You could be, a 15-year-old in high school and call yourself a coach and charge people money for it, and no one would have anything to say about it.
Yes.
So, and that's not, I mean, I'm sure there are 15-year-olds who could be really valuable coaches, especially to other people close to their age. I'm just saying no legal requirements, no educational requirements. So that transition was really easy for me. Other people who are coming in a similar situation, who are moving toward retirement but still working, have to figure out, how can I do that remotely, or do I have to go back to the US? I mean, Hank Stalika is one example of that. He's still teaching at the colleges in California, but he's doing it online.
Amazing.
It keeps him up pretty late at night because there are late classes that he's teaching, which
Yes.
means he's even 8 hours later. So there's ways to work around it, or if there are ways to work around it, then it hasn't been a problem at all. I'm still seeing 2 or 3 of my clients, but now it's once a month. So, and an advantage to that has been that I'm making California wages in Portugal.
Yeah.
Right. So my money goes a lot farther. So for pretty much the last 3 years, I've been working, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 hours a month and able to live off that.
That's not bad, is it?
Not bad at all.
Can I just to make something of the point you just made. So it is possible for people to move to Portugal and continue to work. Sounds like Hank works quite a lot. You work full time, and that's remarkable. Working 3 to 5 days a week, is that? Did you say?
Mm-hmm. No, a month.
A month, 3 to 5 days. So of course,
that's
yeah,
hours. That's not even days. So
no, right.
It's 3 to 5 hours a month.
3 to 5 hours a month for quite a good return. Now, traditionally, people in the UK, for example, would become expats in the true sense of the word and go and work somewhere else to earn more money. You've kind of turned that around. You've moved somewhere you wanted to move to, and kept turning the money you earned back in the old place. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, well, it worked for me. I was able to do it, and so that's basically, even though I am now, I'm calling myself retired, but I'm still working 3 hours a month. So I guess technically I'm still working, but
yes, go steady.
That's right.
Don't burn out.
And yeah, and I started collecting my Social Security at maximum payment,
level, yeah.
but I haven't had to spend any of it. So that's just gone into savings. So it's building. When I actually am retired and have no income at all, I will have a substantial amount of money to use in place of that for a period of time. So in terms of the question, ultimately, was it a good idea to retire here? Absolutely yes, for me. Absolutely yes.
Amazing.
I'm living a 4-minute walk to the beach and working 3 hours a month and making enough money to be quite comfortable in a T1 or a 1-bedroom apartment that is essentially brand new. So, and even my little balcony has a view down the street of the ocean. So it's like, okay, that's a really great trade-off.
Yeah,
I would need to be making 2 or 3 times the income I'm making to have that situation in California.
That's quite amazing, and so worth it from a sort of financial.
Yes, and that's just that piece of it. But
material.
I think that's a practical piece that people want to know about.
Yes, and the work turnaround is quite extraordinary. It is funny that we talk so regularly, and that's the penny's only dropped on that bit, and that's I think an enviable position, isn't it, and one that others might want to emulate. And that's the material side of things, isn't it? On the the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's your material. I think there's been some spiritual and mental benefits too, right?
Well, for sure. In the transition, there's a little space in there between the sort of the practical, logistical, making money and surviving, and the feeling of being here. And that is for the first time in my life, because I've always lived hand to mouth. I've always generally made a little bit less than I could afford every month, or that I needed to get by. So in the US, I was never sure I was going to get through the month, right? I'm never quite sure. I always managed, but you're always just living on that knife edge. And it took me, I don't know, about 6 months, maybe a year. I think it took me about a year to see what my actual costs were relative to my income. And I was making just a little bit more than I needed. But it took me completely off that knife edge. It was a huge difference to barely not enough to a little bit more than enough. It's a very small gap in terms of the numbers, but it's a huge energetic relief.
Yes. I can believe that. Yeah.
And I've done substantially better than that. I've been able to live comfortably. I can go out to eat whenever I want, all that kind of stuff. And I don't live extravagantly. So that's another piece. I don't need $100,000 a year to live comfortably. It's like, no, that would be, I'd feel like a millionaire with that. So
confusing.
yeah, it might. There's that too. It's, how do you live? The choices you make about how you live also impact that. But I haven't had to sacrifice anything from my lifestyle when it's actually gotten better. That's ultimately the point.
That's amazing. And living on a knife's edge in the US is a pretty precarious place to be.
Absolutely. And it gets said a lot, and I think it gets said so much, especially for people who have a public healthcare system, that in the United States, you're literally one paycheck away from being homeless.
Yes.
If you get sick and you don't have substantial financial resources, and you're getting, hospital stay kind of sick, you'd have to mortgage. Many people have to mortgage their homes to find the money, all that kind of stuff. So to live in that sense, it's very, very real. It's not just something Americans say. Oh, we're just one illness or one hospital stay away. It's a literal reality for many, many, many people.
Yes.
And to not even have to think about that, like that's not even a concern, is a huge relief. And then other reasons that I made the choice was to be able to have the lifestyle I have here and be close to the ocean, which, as I made the point, is almost impossible financially in California, unless I wanted to work, 3 times the hours, or not 3 times, 3 hours a month. It would be substantially more than 3 times. But I can work, I can live this way, I can be comfortable. And then the other factors were safety is one of those. I said, feeling safe. Portugal is consistently, at least in the top 10, and not top 5 safest countries in the world, measured primarily on potential threat of danger or harm to ourselves, I'm guessing is what safety means.
Yes.
And it's not to say there's no crime in Portugal. There's crime everywhere there's humans. But if an example that about a year ago, one person got shot somewhere in Portugal, and the whole country, it became national news, and the whole country was like, oh my God, what happened? And how can this happen in Portugal?
Yes.
And I felt it. I felt compassion and empathy for that situation. But I'm going, my God, there's 40, 50, 100 people a day getting killed in the United States. Even at 300 million population, which is 30 times, it's still exponentially larger amounts. So we in the United States tend to just get numb to it because we can't manage the emotion of that every single day. Another school shooting, another carjacking, another so violent crime, especially gun death, has been a huge absence of has been a huge relief for me here as well. I do feel safe.
Yes.
And the women I have talked to, it usually takes about 6 or 12 months to realize they don't have to look over their shoulder every time it gets dark and they're out in town. I mean, obviously, if you're in the middle of a big city, Lisboa or Porto, in an area that is not particularly human friendly, you're taking larger risk. I'm just saying that virtually almost, other than that, almost anywhere you go, you don't have to worry about your own well-being. I can be out at midnight walking all by myself home through the middle of town and not have to have a second thought about it. And
there's a societal expectation on that as well, isn't there? Which is really nice. That's a massive difference, isn't it? If you live somewhere where there isn't that expectation, your life is very different to living in a country where, well, of course you can walk home late at night. That's what we do here.
Yeah, matter of fact, I'll help you.
Here's a bag of fruit.
Yeah, it's like, you've got, and it really is. I've said often, and this goes to another reason, is the culture itself, the energy of the culture, the attitude of the culture. For the most simple sort of nutshell description I have given my friends from the US who say, well, so what's the difference? Well, I guess people in Portugal have asked me that. What's the difference between being in the US and Portugal? And I said, my overall experience of being an American citizen in the culture of the United States is pretty much, I'll get mine, you get yours. I don't wish you ill, but I'm not going to help. You know, it's like, that's up to you. You get yours, I'll get mine, and we'll all be fine.
Yes.
That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is said with anger and like, screw you, I'm not helping you, and I'm going to get all I can, and I'm not going to share. That's sort of the really ugly side of it. But at its most straightforward, it comes from that thing of, it's our job to take care of ourselves. And it's unreasonable to expect anyone else is going to step in and help us. And people do help all the time, but it's not the expectation of the culture. And the overall nutshell description I have of Portugal is that energy is, how can I help?
Yeah, yeah.
And that again is huge.
Not so much the rugged individualism. Right, we've got a bird of the month to squeeze in, so to speak, not in an Austin Powers kind of way. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to Antonio F., one of our the yokes of our Portugal club, the foundations, really, one of the legs of the many-legged stool.
Yes.
I'm getting some long grass here, trying to describe him. Very grateful to him. He's so helpful to us at the Portugal Club. And one of the things he does for us is write a crime report, because he says something like, because Portugal isn't a paradise. Well, for us, it is, relatively speaking. And he keeps us up to date with what's going on with some of the crime. And that's the link for it there. There's one more thing I need to ask you about. And we've got the Barton saying, Bon dia from Sevilla. Just wanted to say hi to all the other Gumpers out there. And they've sent pictures in from Sevilla this morning. Here they are, a landmark some may recognize. And there's a close-up of them having a fantastic time. Thank you for thinking of us this morning, you guys. Lovely to see you there. And this is about you being in Europe and traveling the rest of Europe. That has begun. You've notably been to Ireland. You want to go to Italy as well. And you've just moved house, so I guess that, you know, the travel further around
another
Europe.
Location within Portugal, and I've been a few places within Portugal as well. But
yeah, how's that going? How's the European travel planning going?
Well, there's not a lot of that going on right now because of that paperwork thing. It's like, I don't want to travel without my residency card being updated, and it has to have the correct address. And I just moved, and it may take me till the end of July to get that done. You know, it's that kind of a thing. So I don't want to be moving outside of the country until I have both my passport and my residency card. Technically, I don't need my passport, I believe, if I'm traveling within the Schengen, but I don't want to take the risk. I don't want to take the risk that I'm going to try and get in, and they're going to say, no, you have to go back because you don't have the right paperwork, even though legally I do. So I'm just putting that on hold. I got plenty to do in the meantime, and there's plenty of places within. You could travel within Portugal for 5 years and not see everything you want to see. So it's not like I'm being somehow held back.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Yeah,
that is the plan. Okay, well, we'll stay tuned with you on that. It was great when you broadcast live from Ireland, and hopefully your club in Italy will be an outside broadcast opportunity. Right, just to finish then this morning, let me just play this in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear it. You're not hearing the robin. Okay, well, I hope others can hear the robin. I can. It's lovely.
Yes, they are a lovely little bird.
That's a bit of a giveaway to our bird this morning. Last week, we had the, should we try and say it? The banner's in the way there. The Rivu. And I have been calling my red-headed wife the Ruvinha, which she quite liked. And there was I think the male bird there. This week, there's the female.
No, that's the baby.
That's a baby female, maybe.
No, well, maybe. As it says underneath the photo, juvenile is what they call the youngins.
Juvenile.
And there's what it turns into when it becomes a full-fledged adult.
That's the one we know and recognize, isn't it? But
yes,
we call it the robin. That's a hell of a mouthful, that, isn't it?
It is, although it's kind of fun. It has a nice rhythm to it. The ruivo always catches me a little bit, but the pisco de paitu, it's like
What
pisco
is
de
a
paitu
pisco though?
ruivo.
What is a pisco?
It's let me see. I don't know. I tried a translation of pisco and it didn't come up, but when I put de paitu, I put red-breasted,
Yes, redbreast.
whatever. So
It's fairly straightforward, isn't it? But a
yeah.
pisco is a drink, isn't it? A pisco sour, I believe, is a famous drink.
I
But
don't know. It's just occurring to me now. I should have included a photo of the American robin, which looks very different than this one. So to
it
me,
does,
this
doesn't it? There's more contrast, I think, on the British and American bird, isn't there? The red and the nice grey there look a lot more exotic than our British bird. What's your American robin like in comparison?
um, it's kind of funny with description. First, it's a bigger bird.
Yeah.
It's somewhere between a sparrow and a crow, I guess. So it's a little bit larger.
Seriously, it's that big. It's
Well,
like
not.
a Texan robin.
Well, a sparrow is a pretty small bird, and
Yes.
I'm thinking, okay, so if people, maybe people are more familiar with a mockingbird.
Oh,
It's
no,
a
don't
gray
know that.
bird.
I've heard of
Okay,
it, of course, but don't know it.
but
All
it's
right, well,
roughly that size. I'll try to remember to include a photo of
we'll come back
the
to
American robin.
all right. And
But
I'll put the link to the bird song so that people can enjoy that. And it's a very friendly, fearless bird, isn't it? You might be digging the garden, and this little fellow will come and sit on your garden fork, on the handle of your fork, or your spade.
yeah, and it's I think it's a curious bird too, because again, as long as you aren't directly approaching it, my experience has been they just kind of sit and look at you, like, oh, hey, bud, what you up to?
Mm,
Oh, I
that's
see
right.
you working in your garden. Okay, well, I'm just trying to get some worms or whatever.
Got any
So
worms? Got any worms? That's right. And Garvo, the great Garvo from our community, imagines it as a visit from an ancestor or a past relative. The robin coming to visit you in the garden as well. Some nice sort of power animal, spirit animal vibes there as well.
yes, and my sense, at least from the British people I've met along the way, the few times robins have come into it, there's a great affection for the bird
Yeah,
from the
definitely.
Brits.
Yes,
Uh,
definitely. Yeah.
oh, our dear robin.
You don't
In the
talk
US,
like
like, oh, another robin they must be, be here now, whatever.
right. Excellent. It sounded like Julie Andrews talking there. Or Mary Poppins. And
Yeah, well, at least it wasn't Dick Van Dyke.
well, that's true. Thank you for not trying a Dick Van Dyke on me this morning. All right. Brilliant. Great to chat with you. We'll speak to you again soon. Stay tuned, you Portugal clubbers who are backstage. That's one of the benefits of being a Portugal club member. You can join backstage. Hugh, you've been very quiet this morning. You can say hi in the private chat as well. Bob and Viv about to join us and talking about, I mean, it really connects beautifully with what you're saying. It'll be a separate video available on the Good Morning Portugal YouTube channel. The importance of the spirit of adventure, keeping adventure alive in retirement. So I'm sure you'll resonate with that, James. I'm looking forward.
Yes, and in making the move, the forethought. You may say, "Ooh, I definitely want to know," but still, if you can get here and visit, do that. If not, at least do your research and stay tuned to things like this to see that you might find out something you didn't know.
Yeah.
That's a big part of what made it work for me. Is I was 90% certain it was going to work for me before I left California. So
yes, yeah. Hugh was raising a glass to that. He might be having a cheeky aguardent this morning. I can't tell from this.
Yeah.
Okay. Chin chin, Hugh. Thanks, James. Let's go out with some of this, and we'll see you again soon. All right.
Okay.
Obrigado.
Ciao,
ciao.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and